Today, we're looking at Diamine's Oxford Blue. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Diamine's Oxford Blue is a blue ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples, I put the ink into a different pen for a day, I then put it into a Noodler's Ahab with a modified flex nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. And up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see this kind of gray line across the bottom. And we still see some of that gray push up, but then we see some purples come in right about when we start also seeing that very bright blue. Now the one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. That gray line is very there across the bottom. The purple that pushes up is much more noticeable than it was on the original chromatography, and the blue is much darker. It looks like it's almost an entirely different ink following the behaviors of the first one. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pen. Now I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, this ink does not like to be reactivated at all. Nope, not at all. It went to about a medium and blurry as can be. I would completely avoid this in a note-taking situation if you're somebody who goes back and highlights. Now water reactivated and lifted all of the darkest tones, but left a very light blue across the bottom. Very strange, considering how the highlighting went. Even more strange is what went on with the pen flush. The pen flush really didn't, for some reason, have major effects. It only took some of the darkest ink off the paper. I don't understand what happened there. Really? I can't answer it. Bleach, as you can see on the edge, it obliterated it. It was on the edge of the paper, of the ink swab. It is gone. So bleach will obliterate it, but I don't think you should need a 1/3 bleach solution to get most any ink out of your pen, including this one. Strangely, with the flush doing nothing, we were left with water. Water being the best option, because I believe it'll be able to do it. For the inks I've tested, I found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Diamine's Oxford Blue has a viscosity of 2.5, making it not just normal, but average. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Diamine's Oxford Blue has an average dry time of 10 seconds, making this a very fast drying ink. Now, let's look at the writing samples. I picked this ink up in sample form, and it's kind of hard to tell how little's left because if I move the little bit left, it's just so dark in the vial, and it is a great color. Just wow. To keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, there we go, and not going to focus at all, that's okay, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at Clairefontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It is such a dark, rich blue, but it does not ever look like it wants to be black. So if you don't like blue-black because you don't like that part of it, this is a great option because that blue gets so dark. The extra fine is a noticeably lighter tone with no feather, spread, halo, sheen. It does shade. What happens is that we've got this nice dark black, and when it gets even darker, it doesn't become black, this very dark blue, and then the K, or this blue, and then the K becomes super dark.
but not black. Just not black. Dark, dark blue. The is a very, very dark word, but over is much lighter. 7 seconds to dry. Now the medium, the same tones that we got with the extra fine, with no feather, spread, halo sheen. The shading comes through even better. The K looks much darker than the word quick. B in brown looks much darker. The F in fox looks much darker. The is a much darker word than the word over. 10 seconds to dry. The extra fine and the medium scrubby show us some color variation. It's hard to show up on camera. Get some backing, hold it. Hard to show up on camera because these are dark blue to very dark blue. The smear test you could definitely recover if you smeared while you were writing. Tomoe River. Other than the scrubby, that is me putting it on stupid thick, we have no bleeding. And yes, we get ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It is an amazingly super dark blue. Never makes me think black. The extra fine has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. It is a noticeably lighter tone than the 1.1. It only took 7 seconds to dry. The medium is a darker tone than the extra fine, but it is certainly in the middle of the extra fine and the 1.1. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 23 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it. We didn't get it. And the smear test, you could definitely recover this if you smeared it. That's so rare for Tomoe River. Rhodia, no bleeding, no ghosting. And I think this ink looks the best on Rhodia. It's the white of this particular paper makes it just really super nice. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, beautiful shading in here. It's that darker blue to super dark blue. Like we go from the M is super dark, the IN gets lighter, and then the E gets super dark again. And it's like that through a bunch of the writing. It's really very nice. The extra fine is a noticeably lighter base tone than the 1.1 with no feather, spread, halo sheen, and some very nice shading that's going on. Again, that dark to super dark like we see on the K is super dark. The B in brown is super dark. The J in jumps is lighter than the rest of jumps. The is a noticeably darker word than lazy. Very nice, very subtle shading going on in this ink, and it is just amazing. Really. This is a very nice blue ink. 4 seconds to dry. The medium is a darker tone than we saw with the 1.1. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shading. 9 seconds to dry. The scrubby of both show us no color variation, although up in the extra fine we did see plenty of it. And the smear test says you could likely recover without any problem both of those. Fabriano Echo Qua. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1, very dark tone. No feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. The extra fine is the exact same tone that I see with the 1.1 with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. 4 seconds to dry. The medium is again the exact same tone as the extra fine and the 1.1. No feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. 7 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it. We didn't get it. In the smear test, again, you could definitely recover it. Apica. The Apica CD notebook, the only spot that starts coming through is where I scratch the page on the scrubby. Other than that, we have no bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shade up there. The extra fine has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shade. It is noticeably lighter than the 1.1. It only took 3 seconds to dry, and I think that's where the shading went away. We just didn't have a chance to even see it. The medium is the same tone that we see with the extra fine, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and it does offer some shading. Like the Q in quick is darker than the rest of quick. The B in brown's darker than the rest of brown. Fox goes from very dark to from the very dark to very dark. The is a noticeably darker word than lazy. 10 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both show us no color variation, although the medium showed us a bunch of color variation in the writing. And the smear test, again, you could definitely recover this if you smeared while you were writing. Mnemosine, no bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1, no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The same exact tone with the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 4 seconds to dry. The medium is the exact same tone as the extra fine and the 1.1. No feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 9 seconds to dry. This color is just nice though. It's nice. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't get any. In the smear test, again, you could definitely recover this if you smeared it while you were writing. That is all that I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Diamine's Oxford Blue, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. Now I wanted a nice orangey red, and I went with Diamine's Sunset. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Diamine's Oxford Blue? I think this is an amazing blue ink because it gets so incredibly dark, but never becomes black. Never becomes so black or so dark a blue you think it's black. And you get a number of different tones from this ink depending on the flow and broadness of the nib you use. So your extra fines get a very different tone than your mediums. Thanks for watching.